Hi, welcome to the Peter Piper Rabbit video tutorial, where today I'm going to walk you through how to assemble these two rabbits for your spring holiday. So I'm going to go over what you can find in your kits and what else you'll need to gather before you make these two. All right, this is the things that you should have in your kit and things you will need to gather from your house. So I'm going to start off by showing you, let's see. All right, so up here, you're going to have your pipe cleaner and your dowel for the flag, and these are your arms and legs. You're gonna wrap those. The orange and the light pink is your pom pom for the top of the flag. You'll need thread with a needle. You need stuffing. So you'll have to gather that. You'll need obviously more than that, but you'll need stuffing. You should have 2 bags of sand in your kits. You'll need black paint to dot your eye. And I just used the back of a brush to dot my eye. You can use whatever you want, but I just used black for that. I had chalk that you're gonna need black and brown to go around the eyes and for shading. I also used pink for the blushing. And then I used kind of a rustish color for you to go around the nose. So if you needed to use some eyeshadow, you're gonna want a pink and then maybe something a darker pink, not necessarily fuchsia, but something that's more rose rustish color. You'll need wire. These are 4 pieces of wire, 1 for each ear, wrapped up there. Those are in your kits. You should have an egg with this little washi tape that kind of will hold it together. You should have flowers for the Piper and flowers for Peter's bag. That was for his bag. You will need, let's see what else you have. The 4 glass stones, which are for your eyes. You should have an assortment of little wooden buttons and a little jewel that goes on the egg. Then you should have your flag, which is blue, and then another cream that you'll write spring vibes on. You should have 2 tags that will be Peter and Piper's name, and then a little ticket, which is also for Piper. Blue flowers or some kind of flowers for Piper's shoes. The extra little fibers are for Piper, and Peter's is over there together. They're kept separate for you. You should have 4 little brown wooden leathery rectangles for shoes. Then up here we've got your Piper and your Peter dolls that were all wrapped up. You can see that there's a head and a nose for each one. Then you should have some rectangle long strips that are going to be wrapping your pipe cleaners. Couple of teal and blue to wrap around your egg. Then with Piper stuff, you should have a set of 2 ears. You should have pants. You should have the scarf, which is kind of the rustish color scarf. Then you should have a little hat, which is a rectangle pink, and the body, which is cream. And then over here with Peter, you should have the face, like I said, the face already. The shirt is a little bit of a stripe. You should have 2 ears. You should have a seed bag with a strap and a pouch, and then a little rectangle. You should have his body. You should have brown pants, a kind of a bluish color hood, and then the scarf, which is kind of a little cow print type of a thing, and the body. Then Peter also has some fibers that will be hanging by his neck. You're going to need glue sticks, a fine point marker for you to mark on seeds and their names and a little bit of their face stuff. I just used a Sharpie fine point. Anyway, scissors, glue gun, and I think that should do it, if I can remember right. But anyway, so if you don't have those things, go gather up the ones that we talked about, and then we'll get started on this. Okay, so I am just getting ready to start. I've got all my stuff out. First I'm going to take the bodies, all the body parts. So I've got my 2 heads and my 2 noses, and then the 2 bodies. So I'm going to turn them right side out. The bodies I'm going to turn right side out, stuff them nice and firm all the way to probably about right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put these bags of sand in the bottom of them to give them a weighted base. So I'm going to turn those and stuff them. I am going to take the head. There's a spot at the bottom, obviously. You're going to turn that right side out, and we're going to stuff that also. The nose, you are going to take from the very tip top, turn that right side out, and we're going to stuff that only towards the bottom and not super tight, but you can kind of see the nose here. It's bulbous, but it's nothing at the top. So you'll leave no stuffing, this part of it, and maybe start it and let it gradually kind of bulge out this way. So we'll do that. Then we'll come back, but then you're also going to take your arms and legs. You should have 8 total. And what you'll do is you'll take your long strips of cream fabric. I'm going to show you how to do that really quick, and then we'll stop, and then I'll let you guys meet back, or we'll get back up. So at the very end, you're going to start it. Put a little dab of glue to get it started. Start it, and then you're just going to wrap it long and skinny. So you're just going to wrap it, and you can either twist it like this, but as you get down, you're going to do it fairly tight, so you don't want it to be really loose and gapping. So I'm going to, as I roll it down, every once in a while, I just put a little dab of glue to kind of keep it tight. Go all the way until I get to the bottom. Then I'm going to fold it before I get to the bottom. I just roll it, extend. When I get about this far down, I'm just going to fold the tip of the hand over a little bit like that. And then I just continue wrapping it down, okay? When I get to the end, I'm just going to put some glue in it, wrap it around. I'm going to cut it off. I leave a little bit extra, then I'm going to cut it off. And I'll just use that to kind of bring it back up and make a little fold and just kind of get it tight on there. I'm going to do that to all of the, well, at least to the hands. The feet, you don't have to fold the feet because they go into the shoes. So basically both the hands, you're going to fold the ends over, and then the legs, you can just go straight down. Just make sure it's glued at the tops and at the bottom. And go ahead, you can probably go ahead and fold the bottom a little bit. It gives it a little bit bigger base to kind of glue inside the shoe. But you'll want to make sure this part is securely glued at the top, because that's going to glue up underneath the legs and stuff like that. And you're going to want to make sure, or you're up inside the pants, so you want to make sure that that's tight on there. Okay, so you're going to wrap all of these just like we did. You're going to stuff all of your body parts, and then we'll come back. All right, so I've got all of my body parts stuffed and all my legs and arms wrapped. So I've got my arms here, my legs over here, got both heads, both noses. You can see that kind of how I stuffed on the nose. I stuffed it down like that, and then this part's flat. The head, you're stuffing nice and firm. You can see how tight that is, how I filled out all the sides. I do like to push it out, meaning this is the seam goes in the back. The other part is the front, and I did like to make that kind of, more full. So, and then you can see that I stuffed the body nice and tight. So I filled out those corners if it's not firm, because remember, there's no wire, there's no wood up inside this base. So the firmness of the body and the firmness of the head is what keeps him in place. So make sure that it's not wimpy one side or the other. It's nice and tight all the way down. Now I did stop it about this far. See if you can see it, if I can get a better angle at it. It doesn't show very well, but let me see if I can tone that down a little bit. I was just going to see if I can, I know there's different brightnesses. Anyway, so it's down about that far, because that bag of sand, well, I'm going to show you right now. So if it's too full, then you can always pull some out. So I'm going to take my bag of sand, going to make it as even as possible, and kind of fold it, get all the air, make sure there's no air in it, kind of just like a little long flat piece. Then my seams are on the side. I'm going to lay this in this way, because remember, this is from side to side. So I'm laying it in and I'm stuffing it down. If you cannot grab, I'm going to grasp it between my legs. If you cannot grab enough fabric to be able to, I kind of try to tuck that little side first, but to be able to stitch those sides together within some degree, then take out some stuffing. But you do want it to be firm down there. You don't want there to be a big space between the sandbag and the stuffing. It does need to fit tight against it. I'm going to try to just make mine work because I feel like it's, and remember, it's this way, right? Long ways, long ways. So I'm going to grasp it between my legs. I've got my thread. I've double threaded it. So I thread it through there. The very bottom where there are 2 spots of it are too thick. I'm going to tie a knot. A little tip on how to tie a knot is I just take my finger, I wrap it around. Okay, so it overlaps itself like that. Then I take my thumb and my pointer finger. I roll the threads together. I take my middle finger, touch it at the top of the knot. Let's see if I can get it back. Touch it at the top of the knot, and then I just let go of this finger a little bit and slide that out. So I just roll it and slide it out, and then you can just makes a quick like double or triple knot. It's not the prettiest if you want it. You obviously don't want that to show. So, but if it's going to be on the inside, that's a great way to do it. All right. So now I just take my first little edge and I tuck it under, kind of like a little present fold. But I don't have enough to go to make it a really great one. Like usually, if sometimes it's going to show or you want it to look nice, you do try to make a little nicer one. But I'm just going to get myself started. I'm going edge to edge so that I'm bringing these together. Then I'm just going to tuck it as I go. And I'm just going to bring these 2 sides together and I'm just going to loop it through. Just up and around. I don't take too much of an edge, but just, enough to try not to go through the plastic. You don't want to tear it, but if you do, it's probably not the end of the world. I tuck as I go, and then I just keep, and honestly, if it's not so together, as long as, it's not going to come out because you haven't torn the bag, and there's going to be pants on them both, so if it doesn't touch all the way, that's fine. As I get to the end here, I'm going to tuck this little last edge, because if not, it just sticks out. So I tuck it in, kind of reinforces it, and then I kind of overlap that side and then just finish out my stitches. And then I'm going to knot it. And again, I'm just looping around. So I'm just knotting it at the end right here. And a great way to tie this off is I just take my thread up here. I just stick my hand in there so I've got a little overlapping loop. This is from the front over. I just tuck it around twice, 1, 2, slide it. So I give it this resistance, slide that so the knot is going down onto the top. Put my thumb or my finger right on it and then just let that slide out. The more you wrap it, like if you wrap it twice, it's a double knot. If you just wrap it once, it's just like a single knot. And then I just cut that off. So then you can see how that stands and it sits a little heavy on the base like that. So that makes it be able to sit up. I feel like my camera's a little crooked. Okay. Then on the head, I'm just going to, because this is the part that glues to the top of the body, I'm going to peel out some of those little edges. And I'm just going to do a quick stitch it shut. So I've done one already, but I'll show you what it looks like. I'm just going to do this and stitch it closed. Gosh, that's not that great of lighting. Well, I'm just going to stitch that closed. I don't know if you can see it very well. So again, I'm going to take my knot, my double end thread, wrap it, roll it, middle finger to the edge of the knot, pull it. All right, and then this way, I'm just going to pull out those little edges. I just want to give it, because remember, the rule is you cannot glue to stuffing, because stuffing will not glue to, that can't be your point of connection is stuffing. That doesn't work. So I'm just stitching this closed so it's just got a little flat edge right there. Okay, again, on the knot, I take it, bring it around, 1, 2, pull, thumb up on the knot, pull. Okay, all right, so we're gonna move on from that. So next we've got this. We're gonna go ahead and put some pants and shirt on each one of them. I already have my other one done. So this one, let's go ahead and start with, we'll make this Piper. So I'm gonna take the girl pantaloons. Let's see, trim off all the extra strings and things like that make them, that I sewed them with. Okay, so on the girl, on the inside of the inseam, you're gonna wanna make a couple snips to the seam, but never through it. That just makes them so that they're going to fold and get a better angle on it. So I'm going to turn it right side out. So now if you want, which is probably going to be easier, find out how you're going to do it. This time I'm just going to glue it up along the edge here. But to start and make it a little bit easier, I'm just going to go ahead and glue 2 legs on my body. All right, so I'm just going to take them, I'm going to glue them coming out just like that. So I make the little some glue right there. I'm just going to go right here. You want them to be at the very edge. I'm just putting on my table, but I'm going to pick off the glue because you know it's going to come off. Okay, so then, as soon as that dries, I'm going to slide these legs on, or so the pantaloons on. Pick which side you like. Make sure you're riding. It doesn't really matter. It looks like it's about the same, so. Okay, slide those on. So when I first made them, I actually put the legs on afterwards, so it's probably not that big of a deal. But what you want to do is you slide those guys on. And then it does sit a little bit more fabric in the front, just because the way you want more fabric here. So this will just barely come up to the back, and it will be a tighter fit. So it'll come down tight, and then there will be more puff in front. So the trick is to make sure you get it in the center. And remember, he has a big scarf, so it's not, you don't have to pull this up way up to the top. I want to keep some space right here for the head to glue right onto the body. So I'm going to glue this in a gathering spot. So I'm going to make sure I get my key points, like the back and the front, meaning I just make sure those go up there and there. But I do want to have more fabric, so I'm going to let it swoop out. Maybe the front, I'm going to bring it down just a little more. Then I'm just going to gather it in here. Instead of basting it, if you guys are stitchers and you want to baste it, you guys go ahead and just run a basting stitch all along that top. But you do need to leave a little bit of an angle. So I'm just going to glue this and make sure it's centered, meaning you don't want to get it off center where it's all tweaked around one side or the other. So you want to make sure it's evenly spaced. Okay. And you want to gather that. This is called I don't know what it's called, a glue gather maybe? And I'm just going right around the outside edge of it. I take the center to the center so that we can make sure we have it even. And I'm giving a lot more fullness puffy here at the front. Make sure I'm still filming. So I'm just doing that, make sure it's secure. All right, so it's even. I gotta check my video. Yep. Okay, so then I just gonna go back through here, just in case I missed a few spots. I want them to all just look nice and even. Okay. Then I'm going to take my head. The seam, remember, is in the back. So I'm just going to glue that right on top. Okay? So I'm going to put some glue right on there. And now you don't want that seam to show. So you want that seam to be down. Make sure it's just even. Even. And just hold that. Give it a good long time to dry. In the meantime, you can, while you're doing that, if you have a free hand, let me show you how these kind of fell over a little bit. But so you're going to take her arms. See how this is Piper. You can kind of see. One other thing we're going to do too. Well, I'll tell you a little bit, but we're going to add stuffing back in here. So the head's smaller. We add stuffing back here, and then we put the hood on. But you can see the arm is just up underneath this scarf. So we're just going to glue the arm right here onto her shoulder. Sorry, this is sometimes when there you go. Okay, so I'm going to take a couple of her arms and I'm just going to glue it right. And I'm going to make sure it gets onto the body somewhere so it's nice and secure. And it does, fix my camera. It does go down. You want it to go down. I'm just going to put the seam right in there. That's going to be where my next one is. Make sure I put my hand going down. So I've got two arms like that sticking there. Perfect. All right. So now as long as that's glued, we don't want to make sure that doesn't fall because there's a lot of heavy stuff that goes, the ears with wire and the hat and all that stuff. So we do want to make sure it's secure. If you need to go back in and re-glue underneath here or back here, this is a good time to do it because you do want it to be nice and secure back there so that nothing falls off. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit for a minute. In the meantime, well, I could start on my nose. The thing that I want to make sure I do is I'm coming back far enough so it's going to get held up underneath the hat. So we don't want that to show. But you can see she has a little space for a mouth, and then most of it, this nose right here, is up underneath the hat. So, and it's centered. So I would just, as long as you get it to probably the top part of the hat or head and come down like that. And then I am just going to glue that down there. So let's just go ahead and do that. We're going to glue it only to about here and up. So because it comes down and it's glued, well, you might even want to check, make sure it doesn't get too long on the nose. You can bring it up if you want, but it does ski jump up a little bit. So you can kind of see how it's not attached right here. Let's get you a better angle like that. Like Squidward. You guys remember Squidward from SpongeBob? I guess kind of like his nose a little bit. Oh my goodness, doesn't want to stay. I need two hands. Okay. Just hold it proper right there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and glue. You know what? Maybe I'm premature on that. Let's wait on that. Because I do want to make some eye sockets for that to go in. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll just jump over to Peter for a minute and just get him going to that same spot. All right, Peter, we're going to take our legs. All right, we're just going to glue those on. Under each leg. Pants, brown, trim off. Trim up in the inseam. Turn that right side out. Slide them on. Pull them up along the back. Center the side seams. Make sure it's not twisted and that it's even inside there. All right, so I'm going to wait for just a second because I want to make sure the shirt comes down long enough and that it looks, like I've got enough in there. But on him, we do have it tied around the bottoms of the legs. So you can do it a couple different ways. I'm just going to pull it tight. You can baste it if you want. I'm just going to take some string, bring it over the bottom, and then just pinch it shut. I kind of hand gather it a little bit. So it's like that. Always knot it first. So it doesn't come undone. So you got it in a little knot first, and then I can tie a bow. Trim off all the extra stuff. Make it a little bit smaller. Sometimes, even in that case, I will dab a tiny bit of glue into the knot just to kind of make it so it doesn't come undone. Another one. The nice thing about doing it this way is, well, you can, either way, you can slide it up and down, so it's not permanent. I mean, it is permanent, but you can still move the leg up and down as needed. Okay, so I'm going to tie a knot down here first. Kind of just hand gather this, cinch it right there. Use my finger to hold the knot. And make the second knot. Bow. Make the bow smaller. Tighten it. Trim off extras. Dab of glue. Carefully, not a lot, just enough, a little bit of glue excess. And I kind of bring it up together to kind of make it look like it's not. Okay, let's see, we're looking for shirt for Peter. All right, so there's varying a few different kinds of stripes here. So it should just be a little tube. So you're gonna put the side that you want, the seams go at the side. So just kind of pick what you want. I'm gonna go with this one. And you're gonna do the same thing, seams on the side, and you're gonna glue gather it. I'm gonna run some glue on the front, evenly gather it. Reach around the back side. Evenly gather it. Leaving that top part open so that the head can get a good tight glue to the body. Okay, I'm gonna glue the arms on so you can see that's evenly gathered. If in doubt and you mess it up, pop it off and then just re-glue it again. So that's easy enough. Just make sure it hangs nice and straight like that. Make sure you've got enough along the back. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna just go ahead and glue my arms on. That looks like it was a foot. I didn't do that one quite as well. All right. Let's glue that right up here. Make sure it's got a good little spot to glue. Where's my leg? Excuse me. Okay, got those arms, and then I'm going to put the head on. All right, so then I've got my head here where I've stitched it, seam in the back. I'm just going to glue it right there. Just like that. Now make sure I get enough glue at the front here and hold it longer than you think you need, and make sure if it's going to touch your shirt in the back, like, you know, if mine's touching the shirt, that I get that still glued nice and tight, because the shirt is not as firm as the body, remember. So we just want to make sure it's got a good tight fit. Gotta reach in here and put some more glue. Hold it long enough till it really, because some of the bad things that you can do is you can let it go too soon, and you think it's dried, but just not quite, and then it just kind of never very secure. All right, I'm going to let that dry. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to glue the pants around. I put the body in there. We've straightened it up. I did the shirt, glued it around there. Now I'm going to attach the pants, but I want to make sure it goes underneath the shirt. So we're not going to tuck the shirt in or anything. We're going to let the shirt blouse over top. You're going to bring it around, and it does glue a little bit lower in the back because we have more puff up front, but we also want to make sure that the shirt is going to cover it. So run glue along the back edge here, tuck this in to kind of gather it, but again, make sure the shirt covers over it like that. Come around to the front. do the same thing around the front here, just making sure that the shirt will cover it. And I just gather and bring it together and gather as I go around. And I wanted that shirt to come and flounce over top of it like that. I just want to make sure that's glued secure there. Okay, so then that is going to just over top. You can tuck it under. You can actually glue it to secure a few spots. I'll probably just glue a tiny bit here to kind of keep it up. And then maybe a tiny bit on this side. Just, kind of its own little hem. But I do want it to look like it's a little blousey. But I'm going to do that for them. Okay, so I've got those two. Let's go ahead and move to the nose of both of them. We're going to do the eyes and the nose. So you're going to need your thread and a double thread with a knot at the end. I'm going to go ahead and put the nose on first, and then we'll do the eyes so we can kind of get an idea. All right, so I've got this little edge pulled out. We're going to lay that flat. I'm going to get an idea of how far I want it to go down. It's centered on the face. Remember the seams in the back. I want it to probably look a little bit, because I'm going to end up gluing it about here so that it sticks out a little bit. You can see my finger fits underneath there a little bit. All right, so that looks about right. So I'm just going to kind of hold it in place. I don't want the glue to glue out the side by any means. I just want it to glue in place. You don't want it to gush out the sides here, because that's going to show. We want it to probably at least be to the top of the seam, if not farther back, okay? If you feel like it's too low on the face, just slide that right up a little bit more. You can always pop it off and do it up a little bit higher if you feel like it's too low on the face. I think that will probably look okay though. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it under here, down a little bit farther. I might pull it up just a smidge. Well, it's still hot. It moves pretty well. All right, so I'm going to lift up the nose. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit more. Right there. I'm going to hold that till it dries really good. You can kind of see it's going to stick out like about that much. If you see glue goobing out right through here, don't burn yourself, but I'm just going to swoop in there and just kind of wipe that off. I don't want that to show on any side of it. So, all right, so that's going to dry. The eyes are going to be, about eye level, but you're going to be fairly far out. Not like on the side or anything, but like right about here. And I'm going to knot my thread. I'm going to go in, go back out, pull it, go back in again. And you remember a little tip is to never go in and out through the same spot. So if I go through it, I'm going to take a tiny little stitch before I go back through. I try not to get the exact same spot because then it'll just pop through the fabric. So I'm going to hold it for a second while I'm doing it. But I'm going to go about here because I want it to poke there because the eye does stick out just a little bit farther. About here, I'm going to come through. That looks about right. Pull that through. I'm going to probably trim some of that down because I don't want too much of that there. Okay, so here's where I take the little stitch, come back out close to the knot, but not exactly. Most of this will be covered anyway, so we're trying to give ourselves a little eye socket. So you can pull it, and then you notice that it doesn't really pull that tight. And it won't secure unless you have to, it's kind of hard to hold it and tie the knot at the same time. So now I'm going to go back through. This is what helps it hold tighter. This way. And then when I pull it, it can kind of pucker and it stays a lot better. Because then they're both, I can make my knot on this side. I just messed up on that. Let's get that wrapped down. Remember, I take it, wrap, pull it, cinch it, put my thumb on it, hold it, and right into the socket. Okay. So that looks good. All right, and we're going to do that to both of them. So you've got both of those done like that. All right, so, and you can tell I've already done my other ones because I did that been working ahead of time. All right, we're going to start with the little hoods. All right, so we're going to start with the boys since I've got him in my hands here. The seam is right along the edge. So kind of get an idea of what you're doing here. You're kind of making a little hood that overlaps like this. All right, but it does go reach right on the top. And then it doesn't fit right to the head because the head's little. And remember, we do have a bigger, it sticks out here in the back. Because what we've done is we've just added some stuffing to the back part right here. So what I did first is I'm going to put the hat on the top. Just like you're wearing a little, not on the sides, but just on the top because I still have to cut the ears, remember. So I'm just going to put this right here. All right, so hold that there. I'm going to grab some stuffing. I don't even know if we'll need this much. We'll have to wait and see. But what I'm going to do is I'm basically giving myself a bigger head back here, or just some more bulk. Probably not that much. And what you can do first is you can kind of glue it back under here. And it doesn't have to glue necessarily to the head because all that scarf goes around it. So I'm just going to glue it to the top of the body, just to kind of hold it in place right here. Like that. That kind of gives me an idea right there. I don't want to do too much because I still have to do the ears. All right, so that just kind of helps me see where I'm at. That kind of came up. So I think that's going to be fine because that hat also puckers and then just going to gather it right along like that. But before I can move on too far, I've got to do the ears. So you can see that that's popped off. So honestly, just don't even worry about it right now. Let's just move on and I'll show you how to come back to that. All right, so undo your wire and you're going to take out one strip goes for each ear. So take out your boy ear wires. I'm going to fold those in half. Just in half, nothing special. So kind of like that. I don't know if you can even see that, but get these things out of the way. All right, so then I'm going to slide that up inside the ear. Make sure it kind of goes up towards the top. You like it to be a little white. It's nice to fill out the edges of it, but all right, you can see I have a little bit down here. That's great. I'm just going to bring those in together so that I have a space to be able to glue. I'll probably even bend it just a little bit because I'm going to get that fabric to the ear, or to the base of the head. All right, so, and as you see, you can think I'm going to go, here and here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a little snip. Don't make it the whole length of that side. I would say make it half of that size or 3/4 because you're going to want that to squeeze through. You do want it to have a little bit of a pucker. So make it be, maybe fold it in half like this so it kind of has a little pucker. That's what looks best coming up out of the head. Give yourself a little bit of a space down here, meaning a flat spot to glue, because what I'll do, I'm going to cut through about the width of that, cut through, get that glued to the head, and so that it can pop through. All right, so I've got that here. I'm going to go here. I'm going to make my snip. I want to make it, like I said, probably about that much. That looks about right. If you feel like, if you can't get it through at all, you could always make it a little bit bigger, but you can never make it smaller. You could stitch it closed if you needed to, but I'm going to move this down here. This makes it a little bit easier. All right, so I'm poking that through. You can do it either way. Maybe I'll just go this way. Whichever way is easiest. Okay, so then I'm going to glue that. Remember, you don't want anything to stick out. You want these wires to lay down. So just kind of get it tucked back in there. Give myself plenty of glue. And glue the wire to the fabric and then the fabric to the head so that that's nice and secure right there. Because with the wire in here, you're going to want it to be able to maneuver it around. So, and you don't want that to tip off. So give that a minute and hold that till it's nice and it's tight. If you feel like it's popping up in the back, reach back here. Give yourself a little bit more. Okay. Now I'm just gluing the ear, not necessarily the hat. So just remember that. It's the glue, it's the ear to the head. You can even move the ear or the hat if you don't want to, but you can kind of see I'm just gluing that, making that nice and tight. It does require you to hold it for a little bit of time because it is heavy, and I did put a lot of glue on. So you're going to do that basically to all 4 of these guys. And I'm not going to worry about putting the hood back on quite yet because I do gather that a little bit. You can kind of see how I did kind of gather, but lightly. You don't want it to be glued super tight to the face, but you want to have a nice relaxed fit. And then you can see the puff in the back. I just glued all that down to the bottom of the neckline. Trim off some if it's too long. These are, again, they're pretty secure, glued to the head. So make sure that's what you want. Let me get my little guy over here. Sorry. I'll show you him. So you can kind of see how he's pretty tight to the top of that. You can move him around, but it doesn't flop off. You can kind of see I've got a little bit of a easement right through here. You do want to make sure it looks full through the back, meaning even, like once you start folding those edges down. I'll put that right here while I'm working on this. Okay, I'm just going to move on to the second one. Oh, I didn't even show you how to turn the ears out. Okay, so this is how you turn your ears out. I had left ones for you. Okay, so they look like this. I'm going to trim off a little bit of the excess seam allowance right through here. Then I pull it apart at the tip. This is how I do all things. Like if you're doing an arm or something that's really long, pull it apart, both sides here, poke my thumb down, whatever's, try to get it started. Put your scissors or a poker stick or something, and then I just wiggle it all the way till it comes out. Once it comes out, then I use that edge to kind of create the point or whatever it was at the tip, lightly. I don't want to poke through it. Then when you slide that out, you just kind of pull that all the way down. That's how I did that to all 4 of those. All right, so let's try this one more time here. Oh my goodness sakes. All right, I'm going to fold this in half. Slide it up inside the wire, or inside the ear. If your wire does go up inside the ear, that's okay too. Just make sure you get that glued up inside there so it's not going to slip off. Because if you don't have that and you've only glued your wire, then that will your fabric will just slip right off. So make sure that that gets glued. The wire gets glued to the fabric. I'm going to pinch it together. I'm also going to pinch the wire so that I have a space to glue. I want to have some substance to glue that down. I'm going to cut a hole right about here. Make sure it's even, not one's forward and one's back. About that much. Looks good. Gonna glue that down. Make sure these guys look even. And this one, since I'm pretty much done with this, I'm going to just go ahead and use this hat to kind of hold that down. Because I'm not going to do it so much in the back, but just in the front. You can kind of see on the eyes how those little sockets. You can really not see the sockets that well. It does give them a little bit of detail, so it's not flat. All right, so this is going to take some time to dry. I might even just pop out that stuffing for a minute and make sure this gets all secure in here. Be careful not to burn yourself because I'm using a lot, so it does get hot. When I get ready to put that in, I could put a little bit of glue on the back of there and hold that in place. While I'm holding all these, I'm doing all of it at one time. Just don't burn yourself. Sometimes when you do too much stuff, it burns you. So it's kind of a good idea to just let those dry and then go back in and glue down where you need to glue down. So I'm going to do that to my other set and then we'll come back. All right, so I've got all of the ears glued on, nice and secure. So now we're going to start with adding the stuffing into the back. Seems how I got you a little ahead of yourself. Flip that up, add a little bit of glue, put some stuffing in. You don't want to overstuff it. You want to be able to fold this down and make sure that stuffing doesn't get in the way. You're going to want to glue it to the shirt. And it can come down a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to tuck it around. I'm letting that hold it down there. I'm going to bring it around the face. So I'm going to put, not too close, but I'm going to bring a little bit down. And I'm going to kind of make it gently lay around the face so that it looks natural. Up here, where I had the ears, I'm going to put that a little bit more secure so it won't show the ears. And then we're going to kind of make it look like a little hood. You don't want it glued super tight. You want to make it look a little like it's got some natural flow to it. Maybe like that. And we're going to tuck that around the neck, right here. You don't want to get it up too high because you want to do a little mouth. Still, tuck that, kind of like that. Make it end nicely together. Okay, like that. If some of those places want to pucker up, just hold them a little longer. This blue fabric is a little bit thicker, so you have to kind of let that dry. Okay, so that looks good. And remember, the stuffing that comes from the back, you can use that. Just make sure it's even on both sides. You don't want it to be lopsided because you don't want to pull it super tight. You want to let that stuffing add to the volume of the hat. So, meaning like this. So I'm going to leave it puffed up a little bit, tuck it down. You'll end up cutting off some of this hood, but I use that for some volume. You see that? So it kind of makes it like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and tack down close to the neckline around where I've gathered it to where it looks natural. A little pucker here, kind of a pucker there. Not going to go all the way down, of course, because I'm going to cut some of that off. I'm just going to kind of go right up underneath the neckline here where that shoulder area was. I'm just going to gather that. So remember, so it looks even from the front. Then I'm going to even this out here in the back, and as all the while I'm still kind of holding this. So I'm going to tuck this underneath, like here, and this one kind of gathered up underneath. And then that extra I'm going to cut off. I mean, this is kind of along the same lines as the gather and tuck. So it looks kind of even, like that. It's hot, so let that dry. So these extra pieces right here, I'm just going to cut off because the scarf's going to go around, but it only comes down, 3 inches or so. So all that stuff will need, but we don't want to cut it too short because we don't want it to come out the top of the scarf. So once I think that's dried, it still feels warm. Make sure you put your fingers underneath so you're not cutting the arm or the shirt or anything like that. And then that's probably fine. If you need to glue it down a little bit more, kind of keep it in place, that's okay too. And then that looks good right there. Maybe I'll cut a little bit of that off. Don't want to cut my arm. All right, so then when we get ready for the scarf, take this piece, and this is also one that you need to make sure it looks naturally the way it folds. All right, so you're gonna decide which one, so when your boy and girl sit next to each other, it's like, say here's your boy, he's on this side and Piper's on this side. So I make their scarves go to opposite sides. So like this. So that when they're sitting together, the egg's gonna be in the middle. He has his scarf ending here. She has hers ending over here. So then when they have their little ties that they hang down and it evens them out. So I'm gonna wrap that around. You can kind of see how I've tucked it under a little bit, made it look a little natural, tuck that edge. I started here, wrapped it around, and this overlapped right here. And then I just kind of scrunched it. I tried to show a little bit of blue, that part that looks nice around the face. Same with the pink one. I started here, wrapped it around, and ended over here. I probably will get the little piece over a titch farther, maybe like right here. But I did like a little tail hanging out, so keep that in mind. I'll show you. All right, let's put this down here. All right, let's start with Peter's. And I like this edge. I might let that hang out because that's the natural selvage edge. All right, so I'm going to put it around the neck. I'm going to start, let's see, I'm just going to see how it folds. I'm going to go here and wrap around. That's about as far as it goes. So it kind of starts around in the middle section. So I'll probably end up gluing it right there. Bringing it around, you can kind of see where it's going to end right about here, which is about what I want. So I end up starting it right here in the middle, close to, fold it under that top edge. I'm not even going to do anything with the back yet, except for just to make sure it looks like it's going around. But you can kind of see I'm just going to, just a little bit dabs here. And as I bring it around, just going to bring that around. And then I'm going to kind of cross it. All the while I'm kind of tucking it up. This one will be tucked up too. It's not super hard. I want to cross over that front piece so that it doesn't look like it's okay, so I kind of angled it down a little bit. Then I'm going to bring this part up so it looks a little bit gathery, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but it looks a little natural, like it's scrunched up a little bit. I'm going to put a little dab of glue here, up underneath maybe. And then I'm going to try to fray this out. That's where my button's going to go. Then I'm going to reach back in here, do a little bit of tucking up and just securing that. Make sure my shirt's down a little bit. And just doing that alone already makes it scrunch a little bit, you know? So it's not too hard to make that pucker. And then it looks like natural, like a little scarf tied around. Okay, let's do her. Maybe too much. Make sure your stuffing's not in the way. Even it out on the sides. Bring a little bit up underneath here. Tuck it, round it up under the chin. Do the same to the other side. Glue it to kind of tuck it in there. Okay. So you got this little face here. Kind of see what looks good and even. Make sure I've got even enough stuffing to each side. That looks about right. Back of it looks good. Try to get my, don't glue stuffing. Stuffing never glues. Pucker it and gather it. Tuck it up on my table. Helps me hold it while I'm doing other stuff and I'm going faster than I can. Okay. I like to sometimes bring that ruffle to the front. It just makes it look like she's all bundled up in a little scarf. Okay, then I'm going to take this little piece right here, do the same thing, glue it, gather it, both sides, get the stuffing out of the way, glue gather it. All right, so I got a little pucker right here just because it's glued to that hat, but I think that's going to look okay. All right, so once that's dry, you're going to hold it, make sure it looks good from the back. I'm going to try to pull this up off that. Just the ear got glued to the top of the hat. So pull that off, ease in that. So now I got that puff out in the back. Gathered around, looks even. So now I'm going to cut off these extra little pieces here. Okay, take my scarf. Remember, we're going to the side next time. Now, take this one. Let's see, I think I did it here. No, this way. Can't remember. Fold that top edge under. I think I started here, remember? I'm going to come around. I'm just going to lay it first, tuck under that top edge, bring it around. If that's where I want to go, I think that I want that much to stick out, and that looks great. So, glue that down. It's my first spot. And then right where that's, right up along that edge, it's going to run some glue. Fold that little edge. Bring it around. It's not super tight. Remember, I mean, it's in lays on it, but it's not like you're cinching it really tight. You want to make sure it just looks nice and actually you don't have to cinch it at all, really. Bring that up around the shoulder. It's not a super big fold under. It's just a smooth one. Bring that around the top edge. Like that. This is going to come up. I'm going to glue that in place. Tuck this bottom edge under. I'm going to glue that because that's going to be hidden and I want it to look like that. So I'm going to so that kind of looks a little crinkly. This is going to come across it. For the bottom edge. I kind of pucker it right about where that button's going to go. Just because that will look like a natural. And then you want it to kind of all come together in a pinch right here. I'm going to just fray that out a little bit just because it's cute. Gives it a little bit of definition. So I do want a space for that button to go, like where it looks natural, like it's pulling it together. Okay, I'm going to reach around the back side, and if I need to glue any of this in place, tuck it under, just give it a little glue. Okay, there we go. All right, we are going to start just putting together some of the accessories. All right, so what we're going to do, I'm just going to start showing you how to we'll make some of these things, and then we'll put it on the set. All right, so this is the seed sack. I'm going to trim off all my strings. So that's all cleared. You can put a little bit of stuffing in here if you want. I will probably just put a tiny bit in the bottom. It is not necessarily required just because you don't want it to bulge too far. I'm talking a tiny smidge like that, just to kind of fill it out. All right, we're going to take this little piece of rectangle cream. I'm going to trim it into an oval. Just trim off the edges, round it out. And this is, we're going to write seeds on here. I'm going to write that on there before I glue it. I'm not going to glue very much on there because it will soak through. But I'm just going to write seeds like this. See if I can zoom in on that. Anyway, and then I'm going to make some dashes around it. All right, so big S, little e, staggered E, small d with a long, then I'm just going to, oh, and then another S, seeds, elongated S, that's what I usually try to do. But all right, so then just kind of go make dashes around it, but longer dashes. Then I'm just going to glue this on. I use a fine tip Sharpie. That's what I usually like to, if you like to do these crafts, well, I'd like to write with it anyway, so buy it anyway. They're good. All right, so I'm not going to put too much on because it will soak through. So I'm just going to try to go along the outside edges of it maybe. And then just pick it up and flop it on there. Press it down. Then this is your little strap. All right, so the strap goes like this. Let me show you. I've kind of pinched it in the middle here where it comes together, but you can kind of see I've just glued it inside here. I folded it and glued it inside. It goes up underneath the scarf if you can and comes down the back. So what I'm going to do is until I get it on, I'm just going to glue it in the front, kind of like that. Make sure you have the outside part shows the leather. I'm just going to glue that in there. Put a little glue into this. And then I'm going to wait till I wrap it around the neck and see how far I need to do it. But you don't put it in there very far because you'll need most of that length. So just put it in a little bit. All right, so that's ready to go because I'm going to wrap that around the neck and we'll glue that on when that's ready. Okay, so let's move on to the egg. All right, you've got your egg here. Snap it together. Use your washi tape. Pull off that little backing and just wrap it around. This is what's going to seal it together. And that's just make sure if it's going to be upside down. Oh, I guess it doesn't matter. And I use that to seal it together all the way around it. And if you overlap, just overlap it so it's even or tear it off, either way. Okay, then you're going to take your two colors of the blue. You've got a lighter blue and a darker blue. So these are a little bit hard to wrap around. What you're going to try to do is if you have defects on your egg or whatever, you're going to try to make the best side showing forward, and that's going to be where you have your bow. So your egg looks like this. So I've tied it around. You can see your washi tapes peeking out. I try to stagger them a little bit. I am going to glue them in place a few places. You want it to make it look so it's not super uniform. I'm going to tie the cream or the lighter one underneath it, and then this darker one will go on top with the jewel. So again, it is kind of slippery, so be patient. I'm going to maybe pin it between my legs. Sometimes that helps a little bit more. To start me off, I'm going to go ahead and put a little dab of glue on the back because I know it's not going to, it's already slipped off of me before. Find the center, put it there, but notice I didn't put it right exactly on top of the washi tape. I don't know if I'm saying that wrong. Washi, whatever. Okay, I'm just going to bring that around. I'm going to just tack a few little spots to hold it in place. And maybe I'm going to cross it down just to kind of make it look natural. Scrunch it a little bit if you want. Okay, and then I'm going to tie it. So if you have enough, you can tie it in a bow and do 2 bows. If that's a little too much for you and a little too froofy, then, and again, I like to knot it first before I go out on it. But if you have enough to tie a bow, I'm going to start with a bow. And if I don't like it, I'll take it out. So how I start with it, well, this isn't going to matter because it's the same fabric. The idea, though, was also to make it kind of go out in 4 directions, okay? Then I'm going to take this one, find the center again, put a little dab of glue at the back. I'm going to try to make one go up above it and one go below it. I'm going to cross it on top. So that makes sense. Just a little, break it up a little bit. So it kind of looks like that. I'm going to cross it on top. One's coming from the below and one's coming above. It's not stay very good. I might between my legs here. Tie it right on top. You want your knots to match up. See, that one slid down already. I'm going to put another dab up here to hold this guy in place. Another one down here to hold this guy. Just a little bit. You don't want it will soak through. So there, that holds it a little bit better. Then I'm going to tie it on top of the knot. Or if it doesn't stay on top, just make sure it's really close. Because you don't want it to look like it has 2 separate bows. And then I'm going to, this one's thin enough, you could probably just tie it. This one should try to make it look prettier just because it's right on top. And then make this other one just kind of come out from below it. Kind of like that. I'm trimming off this because then it can look a little even. As I get my knot right there, I'm going to put a little dab of glue and try to hold it in place. So that it will look like that. And then I'm going to feel like it's floppy. I'm going to put some glue up underneath it. Okay. I'm going to take my jewel, and I've got a spot right there for it. Kind of helps cover up a little bit of that glue. So this is your little diamondy jewel, like that. Can I see that? Okay, so I'm just going to hold it carefully in my fingers. Dab a little bit of glue on it. Okay. And then just try to get it right there in the center. Okay, so then that will sit to the side for a minute. If you feel like you need to go back in and glue, which it does feel a little floppy right here, I'm going to glue up underneath there a little bit. Okay, so we're going to move on to our flag. You're going to need your stick and the 2 pieces of paper, and then you're going to need your pom-pom. So you should have this and your stick, and then your orange and one of your little pinks. So it's the lighter of the pink, which is for the stick. Okay, so before we start, I'm going to take my pen, and you can write whatever you want. You can write Happy Easter, Easter, Spring Vibes is what I wrote because I want it to be up all year. You could write whatever you want. The idea is, now it does angle, so the idea is to try to keep your wording to go straight. That is hard. So if you feel like you need, I'm talking like this. You want it to go down low. Here will be vibes and spring will be above, but try to keep it straight. It is harder than it looks. So if you need to put something there to guide you, or just visually do it. So and my vibes is gonna be bigger. So this is what I'm trying to get. This is what I'm aiming for, like that. So I'm gonna write vibes in capitals, and I didn't even get that straight. You can kind of see I didn't even get very straight on it. So really whatever, but that's what I try to do. Okay, so I'm gonna write vibes on here. I'm gonna do it in capitals. And I try to make little dashes at the ends of it. Now I feel like I started back pretty far, so I'm gonna start increasing my size a little bit more. Or space it out. So you can see how you can really make it extend itself by because that's kind of what you want to do, is an oversized print. And then I'm going to do cursive up at the top, trying to keep the same springtime. And I'm just going to make it a little more curly. Big G, like that. Spring vibes. Again, you can do it how you like, but that's just what I chose to do. Okay, so we've got that. We are going to glue it onto the blue. Again, you don't want to do too much. Kind of take a look at how it glues on, like that. I'm going to put some glue along the back here. Kind of just line it, not overly done. You get like one good chance to put it on there, try to get it straight without getting it even. So, okay. Then we're going to glue it on the stick. You're going to leave a little bit of the top, just a little bit, because you want to be able to glue that pom-pom to the top. So you can put it on the back of the paper if you want. And then I just put that right here. Let that dry for a second. Okay, so to do the pom-pom, I just do this one first, but I just wrap it, probably 3 fingers, like that. I take this extra little piece, I wrap it around the center, and I get it tight, and I'm going to dab a little bit of glue, and I'm going to cinch that tighter. Just kind of really cinch it tight so it looks like a little figure 8, but it's tight. Once that's dried and it's not going anywhere, you'll do the same thing, add a little bit of this pink to it. So this one's really only going to be able to do a couple things, and I'm just going to do this. And I'm going to add this in there. Because there's only a couple of them, I'm just going to wrap this a little bit in the center. So then once that's dry, you're going to snip out all the loops. Okay? And it's not loose. You don't want it to be loose. So snip out all the loops. Makes this little pom-pom. I'm going to stick that right in the center of it. You can mix it into it, I guess, if you wanted to too. That kind of mixes into it anyway. Then that's going to glue right on top. Make it so it fits the way you want it to. So you want to show what shows. You can highlight your best part of it. Okay, so that's ready. So I'm going to set that aside. All right, let's do the tags. I'm going to cut out this admit tag. I'm going to trim off all the white parts of that. Okay, gonna take my pink baker's twine like this, and you can do 2 things. You can just let it hang down, or like I just put it through here. pull that through. And so you can do a couple different things. Like you can just, I'm going to just knot it. I'm going to make it even. And I'm just going to do it like a knot right here at the top. Because I'm going to end up tying it in a bow and putting it on top of that button, on top of her scarf. But I want the knot to be really close to the tag. So take your time and get that. Don't pull hard on it because it's just paper and it will snag. It'll pull right through. If it does pull through, just glue it, make a knot, and glue that right on top like that. You won't even notice it. Okay? Actually, just even to reinforce it, or if you have kids in the house, just give it a little dab of glue and get that knot forward on it. I'm still filming here. Sometimes it's hard to see if I'm still filming. Yes. Okay. All right, so I'm going to set that aside. I am going to write Peter and Piper on the tags. So I'm just doing all these little things. All right, so I'm going to these are your name tags for your individual girls, like the Peter and Piper. So I'm just going to do capital P, large bulb, small e, smaller t curled up, smaller e, and then a longer R with a little dash. And then Piper, and again, you can name them anything you want. If you don't like those names, I just thought that was kind of cute. Peter, Piper, whatever. And then Peter Rabbit, so kids a little play on all those words. Okay, so I got those. Those are for shoes. The rest of these are for the ties and trims. I've got my eyes and my buttons. These will be going down. I'll take out my largest buttons for the lapel thing, and then the other buttons will go down the front of them. And I don't know if I have an extra button. I might have an extra one. We'll see where that goes. Of course, the glass ones are for the eyes. Then I have his ties that go on him. I've got our shoes next. So let's go ahead and jump to the shoes. All right, so this is kind of what your shoe looks like. It's a rectangle, and I'm going to just glue it around it. So let's take a minute. I'll come right back here. All right, so for the shoes, you've got these 4 little rectangles. All right, so you're going to fold you've got it the long way, right here. You've got them a little bit longer. So you're going to fold it so it's a little bit narrower. So you can kind of see it's long this way, long this way. So I'm going to fold it like this. And then the folded point, think of that as the tip of the toe. So I'm just going to pivot it. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue along this bottom edge. All right, so like that. So that little envelope in there is going to be the point of the shoe. And then what we'll do is we're going to slide the toe in here, let that dry. Then I'm just going to basically pinch it up around there. I'm going to tuck under that heel. And and then I'm going to tie it with some string. All right, so I'll show you what I mean. And if you find a better way to do this, have at it. It's not a big deal. But you can also take that shoe and, well, let's show you. Wait for that to dry before you poke through. Okay, so here's a foot. Okay, I'm going to put the toe down here. And you can kind of see the idea of what I'm talking about. Then I'm going to tie it, I'm going to cinch it right here. It's going to look like a little poofy thing, but what you can do is you're going to take that up inside of it and then glue that shut at the back. So it's like a little pointed thing. So think of it toe in, think of it like that, but then you think, oh, I don't want that to be all flat. I want to tuck this bottom part up inside. So point the toe in, bring the bottom part up. So it's like a little, almost like an almond, like those cinnamon almonds you get at the store, like at the fairs. I'm going to put some glue here, and I'm going to glue it up the back. And then I'm just going to glue that shut. Try not to get any glue out of it. You don't have to put too much glue. So it looks like this. The leg doesn't really have to even be down to the toe, but that's kind of the idea of it. So I'm going to put some glue. Once that's dry, I'm going to put some glue to actually hold that leg in there. Okay. Just dropped it down inside there. Then that is what I'm going to tie, and it looks like a little elfie shoe. I'm going to make it a little, and then the toe sticks out just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to take that thread, tie that around. Sometimes when you're tying things by yourself, I wrap it around a couple times and cinch it. Helps hold it when you don't have enough hands. And sometimes I even just cut it off the spool because you need to have that, be able to bring it around and not have it stuck onto the spool. So I just bring that around and tighten it. Make sure you tie a knot first so it doesn't unroll like that. Then you can go ahead. So at this point, before you tie a bow, that's a boy, so I'm not going to tie a flower on him. So you can go ahead and tie the bow. Tie the bow. Bring it to its normal size, how you want it to look. Tiny bit of glue. I don't even push the glue. I almost just let the glue gun rest on it to make it just seal up just a little bit. Then I try to bring the bow up so it has a more volume. Trim off some of my edges. All right, let's try that another time on this other leg. All right, I got my rectangle, folding it narrower, running glue across the bottom, letting that dry. So if while you're waiting, you can just do all of them like that. Rectangle. I'm going to flip that because that one's cut off. Fold it in half. Run glue across the bottom. Let it dry. That's got a little dab of glue there, so as soon as it dries just enough, I'm going to wipe that off really quick so it doesn't. Rectangle. Fold it narrow. Run glue across the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to let the one that's dried a little bit more. This one. Push it up a little bit. Remember, I'm going to angle that up. Push it up into the shoe. Seal that shut. I usually include a little bit of glue in that little fold somewhere. Like this, tuck it up, like a little cone envelope. A little bit of glue in there, up the side. Drop my glue gun, so I can get it without. Sorry, I have to see all my mess down here. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to reach in here because this one's got a pretty good fold. I want to make sure I get that stuck there. Okay, so those should be all done. I'm going to put both the boy shoe on, and then when I tie the first knot, you know, like before I do the bow on the shoe of the girl, I'm going to put the flower on and then try to tie the bow on top of the flower so it looks all together. So let's try that on the girl's shoe first. Got my little flowers. They have sometimes they look a little bit different. So you just want it to sit on top and look decorative. All right, so, that came undone there. Okay, so I'm gonna put my hand in there. So slide the toe in here. Before I even start, I'm just gonna go ahead and put some glue on the back so that leg stays in there. I might as well. Okay, then I'm going to gather it. Take my thread. I wrap it. I leave enough on that side to finish it. Wrap it a couple times. Helps hold it in place. Cut off my extra. Tie a knot. And then I'm going to put my bow on top. Like that. Stick my bow on top. And I try to get the little strings to come through some of the petals. And then I'll just tie a little bow on top of it. If it doesn't work for you, you can always just bring the bow up if you can. If you can't, then no big deal. This is your doll. You can do it however you want. A little tighten it up. Little tiny bit of glue. Trim off the edges. Okay, so that is the shoes. I'm going to skip ahead and just go ahead and keep moving on, since I've showed you both of those. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to her. All right, we are going to put big button here. Right there. Then she is going to have, let me just show you her really quick. So she has the rosy pink, the rust, the little pom-poms. She's got the Piper tag hanging and the admit tag hanging. So I just did bow, 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 and then in between there, I just hung the pom-poms, and then the other Piper tag is on top. The Piper tag, just use, if you have baker's twine, more of that, or just use the thread. I just use the cream thread on that. Okay, so I'm just tying a bow for here. And I do want it to hang down, so I'm just gonna lightly put a little dab. Do the same thing with each one. You can make your bows as big as you want. Maybe you can stagger the size of them to make them look not so all so uniform. Make the bow on top so that all the tails hang down. That should have had enough glue in there. Just use that. That one. I'm going to take my pom-poms and let that just hang down. You want that to hang so it's not hidden. You want that to just be like, maybe just like that. And I do want it to feel like the tags come out to this side over here. So maybe the pom-poms can come out there so that you get a great showing of it. Okay, so here's the tag. You can either hang it down lower, let it dangle, and glue it here and then tie a bow, which I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put a little dab of glue here. Let that hang down a little bit. Or you can get it right up close to the button. I'm just without me pulling it, I'm just going to make it look like there's a spot right there. Not pulling very tight on this right now because I just barely glued it. But I do want that tails to hang down. Okay, so then I got my Piper. Take my string. The same thing, I'm just going to tie a knot, slip knot, or any kind of knot. I want that to hang too, so I'm going to let them hang together, maybe a little bit separate heights. Maybe this will be a little bit closer. I might tuck this behind it because I might not want this to show as much, but come out the front maybe like that. See how it's just the cream thread. Let those dangle together. Just let that hang. Okay, so that's that. Let's go ahead and put those buttons down the front. So I'm going to take my smaller buttons and I'm just going to go make sure it's in the center. I'm just going to go down right from the beginning. And if you decide you want to not have it be just an empty button, you can wrap your thread through the middle of it, which is a little cheat way to look like it's sewn on. Or else you can tie a bow and dab it right on top. But you can go up and back down and pull it, and it looks like there's thread through it. I'll show you on a big one. Like you can go up, or up from the bottom. and down. And it looks like it's stitched on. Tie a little knot in the back and just glue that on. Nobody will know the wiser. Sometimes I just take it and put a dab of glue back here because I'm lazy. Cross those up, make sure that they stay. Snip them off. I gotta do one next besides that. And sometimes I tie a little bow on it and just put it right on top of it too. So either way. But for right now, I'm just putting this on. And leave my biggest one at the bottom. Okay. So I just did that down the middle. All right. I'm going to chalk those in a minute. Okay, so now he's going to hold his egg. I am going to set her up to hold the egg and the flowers. So I want to get the pantaloons to be just as blousy as I want them to be and just kind of see how she's going to sit. So she'll probably sit just like, get her bum out there in the back. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the flower, the white or the yellow flower is going to go first. Then we're going to wrap her upper arm a couple times with it. So it stays up. You want it to be about shoulder level. So to keep it shoulder level, I am going to put some glue in there. Just to kind of hold it. I slide it. Just to kind of make sure that's in there. Just so that is about right where I want it. Then this extra part down here is where I'm going to glue the egg in. I want to create a little pocket right here for it to be able to attach to that too. So, and then that flower, I will also glue it here to the base or to her body, just to kind of hold it in place, because that's going to be covered up by the egg. Then I'm going to just wrap the arm, mostly holding to the ribbon and the washi tape. All right, so let's see what we got going in here. All right, so around here, like that, and then it's just going to glue in place right down here. So I'm going to put some glue here. Try to keep that little thing in place. Take your time to let it dry. And now when you put Peter right next to her, you can't really tell. You can wrap his arm around her or tuck it up by the egg, so you don't really know who's holding what. It just looks like they're all sitting there together. Okay, so I'm going to run some glue right down here and get that arm across there. There you go. Okay, so once that's dry, you can see that that's kind of where that holds on to. Okay, so besides the face, I got to do the flag. Let's get her other arm. I think that should be holding, pretty good. Okay, so we're going to wrap her other arm also, just like we did with the flowers. But we're going to kind of get this also. You want that to be above her head, kind of like that. Going to blouse the pantaloons just to kind of see if we've got a spot where that can glue to. That's inconspicuous, but still you don't want it to glob glue right on the front. Wrap the arm, probably twice at least or so. So it holds on there. You're going to glue inside the armhole from the back side, hopefully. Preferably, I guess. Let it slide around for a minute. Okay, so then that's wrapped in there. So it's hooked on. If you feel like you need a better grip, you can go down, lift it up just a little bit. So it's the right height. Then you're going to put a little dab of glue to the body, to those clothes. Not a dab, but you might just run that down right here. Just right in line. So it's not globbing everywhere, but just right in line. And then that arm will just kind of rest. Down here to the side. Okay. All right, so we'll come back for faces, but you can pick off little glues. Oh, also another thing on this ribbon does fray quite easily. So just take your glue gun, don't push on it, but just take that little ridge of sometimes what's left on your gun, and just rub it. You can push it a tiny, tiny bit. It does help for it to not fray. And once it dries a little bit, I just pushed it a little bit more. Let that dry, press it together with your fingers, and then you can trim it off and it just stays. This is probably a little hot. I'm probably too premature on it, but if I press it with my fingers, it kind of creates this little seam, or you can kind of see that little glue. I just trim it and trim it. And then you've got, so that it doesn't fray. That looks nice, but you'll never know. Let it dry so you don't burn yourself, of course, right? Once it's cooled just enough where you can pinch it, it pinches all those frayed edges together into the glue. You can kind of see it sticks to your finger. Then trim off all that little excess. Don't trim off the glue, but trim off the stuff that's hanging over. Okay. The other one you can let that fray. We'll come back and do the faces, but besides that, oh, and the one other shoe, we'll do that later. Let's move on to the boy and finish him up. To Peter. All right. Got a lot of these things hanging around here. All right, so we're going to do Peter's seed bag first. That's obviously what we need to do. All right, so we're going to put that there. Okay, I want to get it where I want it down here. Like that's where I want it to show. So I'm just going to strategically place it where I want it to be. I probably will lift the shirt up a little bit because that will help it to be flouncy, you know. I'm going to bring it a little tiny bit to the front without it being totally in the front, so it looks like a side pouch. I'm going to put a little bit of glue, not a lot, because in case I have to move it, in case my strap's not long enough, but I want to see it from the front, tuck the shirt into it, or, you know, around there. As this comes up, and I want that to just kind of help it hold it. So I'm going to pinch that right, I'm going to wait for a second. I'm going to pinch this right in the front where I think it might, just a little bit to kind of give it a little bit of change up of some, because we do want to put the tag on right about where that pinch is. We're going to tuck it up underneath the collar as much as we can. If you feel like it's down too low, then you can pull up some of that collar. You can also pinch it up in there if you want. I'm just going to see how close I am. I'm close, so I don't need to. I'm holding that, and it's going to bring it around the back, down the back, and I'm going to tuck it inside the bag again. Put a little glue on that side, and pinch it, bring it inside. So I've got those pinched both like that, and it's glued a little bit to the front. His arm's going to go around her, or around the back. Now that I have it in place, I might glue a little bit more to keep it. Make sure take a minute for it to dry. Take your orange flowers, and you're going to just glue those inside. If you have more greenery, just use all that you have. All right, so I'm just going to tuck that in. I want the flowers obviously to show more. Get it so it's shallow. It's shallow in the bag. It doesn't stick up far. You want it to be just right along the edge. I'm going to glue it a little bit to the inside, so like some of the leaves or something to make it hold in place. But again, it's on the inside, so you don't want to get any of that on the outside. It only has to be in a few spots. Then this extra, I had this, came off mine. I'm just going to poke that down the back. And then I'm just going to also make sure that's in on the inside, the bag. Make sure those flowers look like they're taking up the space. Okay, so I'm going to take my Peter tag, get some of my string. I'm going to tie that around. So I'm going to hang that right through here. On this one, I don't think I'm going to tie a bow. I'm just going to leave it string. Or you can do whatever you want with that. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to put my other button. Let's do the fibers right here. Then we are moving along to the faces after this. All right, so you've got this little fun piece. You're going to let that just hang down from there somewhere. I'm going to just make it right up underneath it, I think, because why not? It's a little bit bigger, and I don't want to take up too much space at the button, because I like the little coconut buttons. Just secure that a little bit more. All right, so you have a rust, and you have the gray and white. A little knot right there. All right, so I'm going to tie a bow with this. All right, I'm going to glue that right here. Then another bow with, and that one has a lot. If it's too long, this one just seems like a little bit long. I'm going to go ahead and do one more loop in it to take up, so it looks like almost like a double one. This one's going to be a little too long too, so. But I like them, so I'm just going to keep the length, and take up another bow part of it, so it looks like there's a double bow. Yeah, looks good. Okay. Another one. This one also, I might just make this bow a little longer. So I like that color. Okay, and we're going to put that right in the middle. Perfect. Okay, I just put that right on top of the other knot. And we are ready to move on. Oops, looks like this came off a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit of glue there. Okay, so we're ready to move on to the faces. I'm going to chalk the ears and stuff like that. So let's grab your chalk and your paint. Actually, why don't we do this? Well, let's wait. Sorry. Okay, so we are getting ready to do the faces. So I've got 4 colors of chalk. So I have the brown, which is I do for shading, the black, which I'm going to go around the rim of the eyes, and then the light pink, which I do for the cheeks, also around the eyes, and the top part right here of the nose to kind of blend this other darker color. So this is kind of, I would say it's a rust, but maybe a dark rose, something like that. So I kind of feel like it matches these tones pretty good. But I use that around here to make the darkest part of the nose. You can kind of see here, I've gone down the side. I've also mixed a little bit of brown, titch of black, but just to kind of, I don't want to overdo it, but I also want it to look very drastic, like he's got this big bulbous red nose, but then I blended it up with a little bit of pink. So first off, I'm going to start with the black. All right, so I'm going to just draw a circle, and the idea of the circle is to have it be bigger than the glass eye. You don't even have to really fill in that center because it's going to be covered, but to get as much of a circle around the place where you made your pucker. So, and if you don't know, you can always take your eye and put it over top of it and say like, oh, does that show out enough? I kind of like it to show a good amount because that's kind of the point that he's got a fun face. If you don't like it, then obviously you can do brown or don't do it at all if you just want to leave it plain. But I like it to kind of, and then I can see like that's about a good amount past my eye. You can kind of see here. Okay, so then I'm going to do both eyes like that. Do your best to get it round. But again, you can correct it as you go too. So I start small and then make it bigger. That's the thing. Start small, then make it bigger as needed. just kind of hold your eye up to it. You just want to make sure it's the same as the other eye. You go a little bit bigger. And this chalk does rub off, so I am very careful to make it so it's not like it does rub off, so I try not to touch it along while I'm going along the way. All right, so, and I try not to touch it on lots of stuff. But I'm going to rub it once I get done. And once you rub it, it does help. So now I'm going to take the pink, my cheek pink, and I'm going to go around the ridge of that, both of the eyes. After I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and do the cheeks, but I'm going to rub it on my hand first, just in case it's got a little bit of black on it. Get some pink cheek here, pink cheek here. So without not my dirty fingers, but like a pinky or something else, or my other hand, or just wash your hand in between. Just try to blend it in. It blends pretty good. My chalk does, but same with your blush. Like just blend it like it's blush. Now, because I'm just going to go ahead and rub my eye just a little bit, just kind of, and then maybe rub it off after you get on a paper towel or something after. Just try to make that blend. Okay, so I'm just, of course, rubbing it on my hand, but, all right, so now I'm going to start on I'm going to start with the brown, and I'm going to shade just a titch. Not a lot, but just, I try to get it, mine this has a little sharp edge. I try to get just a little bit, but not much, just a little bit of shadow on that underside of the nose. You can use the edge of just a little bit to kind of go down the ridge of that side of the nose. Okay, I didn't do very much of it. I'm going to take now the dark rust, and I'm going to go around the edge part of the nose. If you guys like doing these, just get a thing of chalk. They're super cheap. You can get at any craft store, Michael's, Robert's. I think I have a set that I use a good amount of time. I think it was like $5 or something. They're not that expensive. And I'm just kind of going all around here. This also rubs off, so I try to do it from the side, kind of come up. I'm going to get underneath it, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to go right along this top, right along the bottom. Try to make it oval around like that. Then I'm going to take my fingers up here where it's clean. I'm going to lift up just a little bit and get up underneath there. I don't want to touch it on the face, but I also don't want it to get anything. So I'm going to take my fingers, and I'm going to rub it in now, very carefully, trying not to get up underneath there or get it anywhere. Okay, it's just kind of like that. Just blend it in. Okay, so that looks good. So now I'm going to take my pink again, and I'm going to blend this into the white right through here. And I'm just going to rub that in some more. See? Just like that. All right, before I move on, I'm just going to go ahead and take my marker. I'm going to draw a little tiny smile and a titch of an eyebrow on each one. So I just do a little baby one down here. Of course, my pen never starts writing when I want it to. And not very dark ones, but just very skiffy eyebrows. Okay, oh, I forgot also, when I have my chalk out, my brown, I just like to kind of grunge up the ears, just a tiny bit, because I feel like sometimes it just looks so perfect. It just doesn't have a lot of character. I just blend that brown up there, and then you can rub it in if you want. It's kind of fun to make it. And then I just kind of crank the ears. These ears do go kind of straight up, but you do have them go back and forth a little bit to kind of, you can twist it around to make the other part show. They do kind of straight up. Also, if you want to, you can take your finger or the chalk and just kind of rub your flag a little bit. If you're not comfortable with that, just take your fingers and just rub it on your chalk first and do it like that. Okay, so I'm just ready for the eyes. So I'm going to go ahead. Now remember, there's sockets, so You can either put glue in the socket, because sometimes if you put it right on the back of the eye, it doesn't adhere to the eye because it's like a socket. So find, in case you have a shaped eye that you want to make sure it's not like oval long, if you have a little bit longer, because they just come naturally, but most of them are round. If you do have it a little bit longer, make it go up like this. So kind of like an eye would go like that on them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put some, I usually do it on the glass, and I'm going to just do it on the glass. I'm going to put it on the glass, and I'm going to put right into the socket. I'm going to press it down so maybe it adheres to something. If it pops right off, just go ahead and put some glue in the socket. I'll show you how to do the socket. Just be careful not to get too much and goob it all over. That's the only difference. You just want to make sure that's the case. So I press them in just a little bit so that they can somehow hopefully grab onto something up there. Then I'm going to, I'll just show you right now. I've got it in my hands. Okay, I'm taking my black paint. I just take off the lid. I usually use the back of a paintbrush. I'm going to dip it in here. Oops, see, that just rolled right off. So obviously that one didn't work. Let me see if I can grab it without burning. Oh, there it is. I'll grab another one. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and use this one and put the glue on the back of it like I did before. They both popped off. So you're going to have to just make sure that you get them on there. If worst case scenario, you can use some E6000 or something like that. Because this is glass. Glass and glue don't really go great together. But now that I've filled up the socket with glue, maybe it will stay a lot better. But that's what you can do if you can't. Get some fabric glue. I would say E6000, liquid nails, something like that. Okay, so the dots that are going to go on here are not quite in the center. They're just a little bit more like a pupil that would go like up higher, up a little bit higher on the eye. So and I dotted it, but I also had to kind of make a circle. Nice thing about this is if you mess up, you can just wipe it off and try it again. So a little bit higher up on the eye, almost like they're looking inward. And then I take the brush and just make a little circle like that. Okay, so that's it for that one. Let's move on to the other eye. I'm just going to show it to you one more time with the boy. Let's see how that works. All right, so she is done. I'm going to put him back here, and let's move on to him. And we'll do that one more time. Okay. Take your brown. I'm going to slide right down the edge here. Just a little bit. I'm going to take black. Okay. A little pink around the outside rim. Pink around the outside rim. Blush some cheeks with clean fingers. Rub it. Okay, take my dark chalk, going on the bottom edge of the bulbous nose. If your nose is sticking out too far, you can always glue it down more to the face. I'm going to go right around the bottom edge. Once I rub this, it smooths in all these little areas that won't. I'm going to take my clean hands, go up underneath here. Try not to touch the face. Then I'm going to rub it in. Okay. Take my pink again, kind of blend that. Okay, see, I touched that just that little bit. You have to be careful about that. Okay, all right. Let's go ahead and glue those eyes in. Oh, I dropped one on the ground. I'm gonna have to get it. This will make your floors feel better. Okay, there we go. All right, so then I'm going to glue. You know, this socket right here is really deep. I'm going to go ahead and just glue some glue in here. Let's just let that fill up. I'm just going to fill that socket up. Now, I don't want to put enough that it's going to drip down, but I'm going to let that sit for a minute. That kind of fills up that socket, and that might be a good idea. Okay, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to chalk these ears. Okay, that's good. I like to see both sides of the ear, front and back. It's kind of cute. And I try to spread the wire out, try to manipulate that so it kind of gives it some space to kind of like that. Just kind of bend them. Okay, well, let's go ahead and try and put them on anyway. They're not quite done, but okay. Glue on, glue in. Oh, I didn't rub my eyes, did I? Can't remember if I did or not. I don't think I did. I'm gonna blend them. I'm gonna take this off because it looks better blended. Blending it makes it look a lot better. Okay, I'm gonna keep that glob of glue on there. Maybe that will help it. Okay, then we're gonna put this back on again for our third time. All right, here we go. Center it, press it. All right, I feel like this one needs just a little bit more shadowing. It's a little bit more detail in its face. Oh, jeez. All right, I'll glue that one back on. I may have to grab my liquid nails here in a minute, but one more time, folks. Sorry about that. See, we all make, there are always errors too, so I think I could trim off some of that glue. All right, I'm just going to hold it a little bit longer. Okay, then I'm going to do the little mouth and eyebrows, and then we're going to dot the eyes. And then we're all done with our Peter and Piper rabbit for spring. Woohoo! Sorry this was a long video, but we had a couple of them to make, so little mouth, just up and down. Oh. Light eyebrows, skippings, paint, dot, but then circle it. because if you do, I'll show you my dot. My dot is just a little too small. That might be fine. Or you can get a bigger brush too. There we go. All right. I think we're all finished. Let's show our final product here. Okay, so we got our Peter. You can bend his legs, sit him how he wants. This arm is going to go out around her. I think this is the one I made. I can't remember. Okay, so then we put her there. We sit them right next to each other. Fluff them up a little bit. Okay, and you're all set. Thanks for joining me for this fun tutorial. I really like these. These are fun. Peter and Piper Rabbit. Join me again soon.